before we get into our topic, which is the global water parks challenges, changes, and trends, which our guest is going to talk about, and I'll introduce in a moment. I wanted to talk a little bit about this continuing, I'm calling it Corona coaster ride that has affected the world and our industry in our lives and certainly our businesses. And there's no question that now more than ever, the future is going to be radically different from the present that we're living, working, and recreating in. So in our podcast, we've been talking about that so far, and we're going to continue that today with our guests. You know, we know a lot about what's going on from the dollars and cents aspect, but I really think that and believe that we are surprisingly uninformed about how social structures are transforming the world around us. And it's something that as an industry, we're going to have to keep our finger on the pulse. Everything from the population drought, which is happening, believe it or not, to the generational changes that we're seeing in the very near future. There are going to be more grandparents than grandkids. We've never had anything like that in our lives. And the new middle classes that are emerging, more affluent, wealthy women are going to be on the planet than ever before. Good news. And we're seeing these new middle classes as they emerge, tying into the technologies and things that we're experiencing. And one of the things with technology is the technology interruptions that are occurring at lightning speed. We're seeing things that we're implementing change almost immediately in some cases. So all of these are truly transformational, and we have to look at these and study them and be in tune with these technological, demographic, and economic waves. And we must, I believe, really, as an industry, carefully and successfully navigate what I'm calling these seismic changes in these areas that really are going to be defined in the next 10 years. We're never going to live the way we have, and we know part of the reasons for that, but we need to be in tune with the information that's coming down the highway to us. So I'm very excited today. Got a great guest, very gregarious guy, really one of the leaders of a major segment of our recreation industry, Rick Hunter. He's chairman and CEO of ProSlide, one of our great suppliers to the water park industry and other facets of our industry. ProSlide's been around since, I believe it's 1986. Rick will talk a little bit about that. And he's going to give us a brief overview on his experience and what ProSlide is up to these days. But equally as important, I've asked Rick to talk about the industry and talk about what he sees coming down the pike. Rick, if you know him, you know he's truly one of the greatest innovators in our industry. He never stops working. It's funny, he and I run into each other on airplanes, airports, and on trade show floors. We very seldom ever see each other in the U.S., and we always kind of laugh about that. So without further ado, Rick, I'd like to get you on camera here, have you join us. And I'm going to turn it over to you, and welcome to ITPS. I'm for Fun.
Great. Dennis, thanks for that great introduction. I'm humbled. I feel very, very fortunate to be in the position I'm in, involved with the water park industry and with the great industry overall for theme parks and water parks. And I'm looking forward to sharing the experiences that we have.
Yeah, please do.
I want to welcome everybody to Ottawa, Canada, which is north of Cincinnati by a number of latitude numbers there. And it's a lot colder, but you know what? I always think about our markets, and I think about how global we are and how lucky we are to be together.
Yeah, it's amazing. And it is truly, we are a global industry, and I know there isn't a country we can go to on this planet where we don't know somebody, have a friend, go to dinner with, and have a wonderful experience, and equally, or maybe more important, do some business.
Absolutely. And it's so true that, being global really puts you in touch with all the different cultures, different paces of life, different economies. I mean,
Yep.
it's every day is a new day and a new education. So feel really, really privileged to be able to do that.
Yeah, I think we're one of the few industries where when we get up in the morning, most days we say, hey, it's a good day and I want to get to work. I want to go to the office. So,
Absolutely.
hey, Rick, I'd like to kind of have you start with, if you don't mind, I'm going to pull you back for a moment, a little history, on the industry, talking a little bit about how the water park industry exploded started in the 70s, really exploded in the 80s, and give us a little overview, going back to the mom and poppers, coming forward to the big companies that are in the day, and then we'll move forward into the future and look at some challenges and opportunities and trends.
100%. My background, Dennis, as we spoke earlier, I've been involved in the industry since 1980. So, I was a professional ski racer and a ski racer internationally for Canada in the 70s, finished my education in the late 70s, still ski racing, and I was out in Colorado in April of 1980, and I was flying back through from Denver to Chicago, and I had a layover in Chicago, and I ended up talking with an individual there who, in fact, I was a ski racer going into the ski business. I had a job lined up in the ski industry, and this individual turned to me, and I was racing for Solomon bindings and Spalding skis at the time, had a Solomon turtleneck, and he said, "Oh, you're a skier?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "I'm related to ski areas too. I sell the Alpine slide." And the Alpine slide, of course, is a slide for, summer recreation for winter ski areas that has a sled. And of course, you ride up the chairlift and you ride down on the sled. And I said, "Well, I know the Alpine slide. There's one in my hometown at Mont Cascade." He said, "We built that." Honestly, within about 20 minutes, he was offering me a job to go into the Alpine slide business. They're out of Vermont. He said, "We needed a guy to sell slides in Canada." And he said, "You're finishing your MBA. You're a ski racer. You know the ski areas. You're the guy."
You get the physics.
It was crazy. It was this chance meeting, which gives me great gratitude. So, I said, "Thank you, but no thanks. I'm actually going into the ski business." He said, "No, please send us a resume." Lucky thing was I went for it, and I ended up with the Alpine Slide Company out of Vermont, but based in Canada. I worked for the Alpine Slide Company. They were involved with water slides, thank the Lord. And I ended up learning my trade for 6 years, actually, with Alpine Slide. I was fortunate to go to the early trade shows, and I worked mostly, although I was based in Canada, I worked mostly in the United States, selling really the Alpine Slide and the water slides. And it was one of those things. It was a match made in heaven. It was a funny circumstance in 1986 where I did start ProSlide. So ProSlide is now 34 years old. And I've been doing, working on all kinds of, innovations, inventions for water rides based on my skiing, and so honestly, 34 years of constant work in this water park industry with the growth. And I can't say enough about it. Like, talk
Yeah.
about a learning experience.
What
If we,
who would have thought being a ski bum, and I say that affectionately, would have led you to where you are today?
yeah, just lucky. Like when I think back on the history of the industry, I ended up in the mid 80s bumping into George Millay. And of course, George Millay started the water park industry, really.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
1975, Wet n Wild Orlando, assembled the water rides and assembled, wave pool, lazy rivers. So when you look back, I really lucked out and got in early. 1980 was considered really early.
Yeah.
Went to every World Water Park trade show for 40 years now, and all the IAPA shows. And you described it earlier. The 80s were mom and pop. Literally, I mean, we called it a cottage industry in a lot of ways. And it grew up through the 80s with people who were unbelievable entrepreneurs building water rides and water parks. And so the truth is it was the things like Noah's Ark and Wisconsin Dells. The Wisconsin Dells grew up in the 80s.
Yeah.
It was just on fire. You said there was massive growth in the 80s. The 90s, that's when the corporates started to come in because water parks were doing very, very well as standalone parks. The indoor water parks started, that the Great Wolf Lodges, the Kalaharis, the Wilderness, this is in the 90s. Six Flags rolled out 6 parks in the 90s. Paramount Parks were a little bit before, right in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
King's Dominion, Canada's Wonderland, I'm just going to say, Carowinds, the whole bit. I mean, it rolled out really quickly. So the 90s were full of excitement.
And the thing that I think really occurred back then, Rick, was the dry parks, all those parks you mentioned and more. What they learned was they could add a water park for what the cost of a major ride was in some parks. One single roller coaster or one single, and get basically another gate.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we did our best to innovate products because they started off, as we know, body slides, serpentine body slides, vertical curve speed slides. And in the 80s, we got into double 2-person inner tubes, which was, that was a catch-all and capacity like crazy. I lucked out and adopted the Mammoth River, 14 feet wide for 6 people in the late 80s. And it was 89, I prototyped that. And sure enough, that thing went totally viral through the 90s. And water parks became of age. And like you said, people were maybe building, they would do a standalone park with many, with a wave pool, lazy river, and probably like $20 million, and maybe the cost of a roller coaster, and they had a whole park and a whole gate. So it was wham.
Well, now I'm going to pull you forward a little bit, what do we have? 10. We've got over 10 countries on right now. Okay. And we've got some questions coming in already. So we'll get to those in a minute. But I think one of the things I wanted to have you kind of talk about is this, as you heard in my opening statement, it's a difficult time. It's the world's changing and we're moving rapidly. So from a water park perspective, and one of the larger companies in that segment, what do you have you seen as the main challenges that have hit us in the last 6 to 7 months, and how you're dealing with those? Kind of talk about those, and we'll move through those quickly.
The one thing I'm going to say about the water park industry and our theme park industry, just prior to this, is the entrepreneurship, the incredible entrepreneurship and will, passion, and drive of this whole industry and all of our clients around the world. It just seems to be, we're all in I'm going to call it the technology of fun.
Yep.
And the truth is we deliver fun. Now, bottom line is, it's not been fun for the last 8 months, that's for sure. Like
Yeah.
this is, I've heard words like decimated, can't believe it, never before. None of us saw it coming.
No.
None of us saw it coming. And we are gathering together as an industry in a group. I mean, we're on the phones constantly with all of our clients, and we're talking about solutions, and we're talking about the way forward. And I will say this, it's been very difficult. And I do have, as you have the world map behind you, I've got the world map behind me. And I must, like, if you said North America, Europe, and we traveled across the world, into, the Middle East and the Far East, there's no doubt that North America and Europe got hit the toughest. It was the timing. It was the timing of COVID coming on, and it was the timing of when it hit. And sure enough, it was in everybody's high season.
Yeah.
And we look at, there's reasons why, but North America was, for me, like for sure Europe, like Europe and North America are very, very similar in the fact that they're standalone parks. The history of the theme park industry is Europe and North America and the United States for the most part. And these are standalone parks. And so COVID hit these standalone parks the worst because they're not anchored by real estate or by anything. It's like, okay, what do you mean we can't send people to the park, or we can't invite our guests into the park? So the parks, I mean, all of our key, very, very big clients, which, that surround us, it is the Disneys and the Universals and the Sea Worlds and the Six Flags and the Paramount, and Cedar Fair.
Highest to lowest, biggest to smallest.
Nobody spared. So
No.
there's no doubt that the impact is very, very large. And we are in touch with all of those guys and saying if there's anything we can do, because most of those projects that we were involved with that were opening 2020 were deferred. Now they will be opening for the most part in 2021. So I'm just going to say that financially, this is like the hit that we're all going to realize for many years to come. But having said that, we're all looking the same way. We've been through a lot of, financial downturns like 08, 9, 10. I mean, that financial downturn for a lot of us was killer. That was like sales dropped in half for 2-3 years in a row. It was devastating. This hopefully in its own way, hopefully, I mean, economically, it's going to be, it'll be a number of years. But hopefully COVID with vaccines and things, hopefully we can eke out a 2021 season, get back on track. And then 2022, bam, hopefully it's the massive, pent up demand, because our industry is so strong when we're at full tilt.
Well, I always tell the media when I talk to them that we're the most resilient industry on the planet. People love us, they like us, they respect us, and they want to come back to us. Let me ask you this, Rick. You've been a member of the World Water Park Association for decades.
40 years.
You've served on different committees and spoken at numerous events and everything. What's WWA doing right now for support of their members? How are they addressing this? I think our listeners and viewers would like to hear what's happening from that standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, from the standpoint of the industry and the association by itself, I mean, right now, currently, coincidentally, their trade show's on today. So it's literally the next 2 to 3 days, and it's a virtual
it's
show.
Virtual, yeah.
Yeah, it's virtual. So, we definitely, we're not able, like we're all, and this, was so true with Keith and with Jim, your previous, people on the show. We are devastated because we can't go to trade shows. Like, I mean, this is where the community comes together. This is where we share the enthusiasm. I mean, we share the losses, but we share the enthusiasm as well. This is this is the heartbeat. So World Water Park, I mean, we're gathering together, like we're communicating, all of the members, is seeking out, what do you do at a time like this? How can we get back on track as quickly as possible? And I would just say a lot of collaboration and a lot of communication is going on. And we are talking about COVID. We're talking through COVID. I mean, anybody that runs their own business and works in the industry we're in, I mean, we know the fragility of weather. We know the fragility of when the guests aren't coming.
Sure.
We know the highlights when they come back. The one thing, it's all about this. It's all about the smiles.
All about the smile.
It's all about building memories. And, it doesn't take very long to be in this industry to know how important that is.
Well,
And
what have you seen at ProSlide? I know you're active, and as we've talked, this is not a commercial. It's to help educate our viewers. But what have you seen on the client side of the ledger as it relates to slow down, delay, postpone, and cancellation of projects? What's been your experience as you've met with people all over the world, every continent, and what they've told you? Let me say before you answer, we had a conversation with a couple of the CEOs of some of the big public companies, and they said, "Hey, Dennis, we're not going to be buying anything for a while. We have to service our debts, and we have some pretty incredible cash burdens that are going on." So those are that's reality.
That's real.
And we're all dealing with that. And I just wrote an article yesterday about planning, and don't stop the planning cycle. But what are you hearing?
Okay. Well, let me say this. As ProSlide and anybody on the supply side of the industry, and this is not because of COVID, but for 40 years, if you don't have work, you're looking for work. Okay.
Yes.
You're looking for work. Like you are, absolutely, any markets that you feel like you can serve well, you are scanning and you are penetrating those channels to make sure that you're getting work. And that's really nothing new, but this has definitely put this on the radar. This is time for reflection, but don't wait around too long reflecting, get moving, because things are happening. I have
one saying, and that sense of urgency. We've never needed sense of urgency more than we've ever needed it right now. And by that, I mean, we have to move and act on things at the moment, not 2 days, not 4 days, not a week, not 30 minutes. If we see something, we got to react to it and get moving, get it in the planning.
100%. Here's one of the things that when I look at myself, and I mention that word gratitude a lot, because I was a skier and I was going to be in another industry. And I am so glad I'm in this industry because, skiing, I was going to be in the ski supply side, of equipment. Well, that's a consumer product. And the truth is that I was lucky to get into this business because I'm business to business. And I'm dealing with businesses, but I'm also, my end user is the consumer, but this is an important application. And bottom line is that growing up in this water park industry, and I believe my gratitude also shifts, and I think, okay, what is my role? My role is, of course, to take care of ProSlide, but no, the role is, ProSlide is a tool. ProSlide is a supply side. We have a great team, but it's all about taking care of our clients and taking care and helping them with their businesses.
And Rick, let me inject there. How are they coming to you? I mean, you've got a lot of projects, and that's great, and we're happy. But I've got to sit here this morning and say, not everybody's writing the check the way they used to. And not everybody's probably picking up the phone exactly the way they used to. in
Yeah,
terms of
no,
sense
that's
of
true. That's true.
what.
Now, here's the interesting news. Like, I think one of my roles also, because we are one of the ones who, we are busy, and I think we're busy. I'm going to say the word innovation, and we
Mhm.
all know how important innovation and moving forward is. So I think that's one of our, one of anybody that's on the supply side and the operating side of theme park or water park. Innovation, new, and that, by the way, that doesn't mean discard the old, but I will say this, what's really unique, and I think it adds to this conversation, water park applications. When we first got in, what was a water park? Well, a water park was an outdoor water park. Mostly in the early days, it was on grade, it was on hills, or, it was on
Mhm.
great water slides. George, certainly in Orlando didn't have that. So they built up the hill on the Mach 5. He built that, and then he did then he went into the structures. That's good. Bottom line is, catch this one. So the 80s, outdoor water park standalones, indoor water park standalones. People did in Europe were developing indoor water parks, now indoor water parks. Now, in the late 80s, themed indoor water park hotels. So the Great Wolf Lodges, the Kalaharis, the Wilderness. Okay, now all of a sudden, like this was the staycation hotels.
Mhm.
Okay, so we're really lucky because that thing took off. I mean,
Yeah.
no advertising, but 17 Great Wolf Lodges, like, across the nation. Um, Next, for destination resort water parks. Okay, so at the Atlantises of the world, but also the Disneys of the world. They really, I mean, when you think about these are
Blizzard Beach,
amended.
Typhoon Lagoon, and
Yeah,
yeah,
Typhoon Lagoon, Blizzard, Volcano Bay, the original Wet
yeah.
and Wild. Then you get into, so those would be like destination resorts. Then I have retailtainment came on, the West Edmonton Mall, the Germaisians. Now
Oh yeah.
American Dream opened 2 days ago, or sorry, the first, so 6 days ago, and so retailtainment is actually taking off around the world. Now, COVID is beating the crap out of that right now. I mean, talk about wishing, praying, and everything that COVID would please find a way to go away, get the vaccines, and get everybody up and running. Because if anybody's getting hit hard, it's American Dream. And I'm going to tell you, that project is a winner for our industry. That, we, of course, we were there doing, the ride verification and everything for opening, but it is a standout. But,
It's tough when you throw a party and nobody comes though,
that's it. I mean,
and
this
that's
is
where we
like
are.
brutal.
Well,
So,
hey, let
yeah,
me inject one more thing there. I mean, you just said it. You said it. You named the water parks, and let's talk just for 1 second.
yeah,
Volcano Bay, the most
yeah,
popular water park in the world,
yeah,
one of the greatest facilities I've ever seen,
fantastic.
and closed this week. Announced they're
Yeah,
closing for
exactly.
the remainder
Yeah.
of the
I
year. I
mean,
mean, they're not closing because people are coming.
no, no. I mean, this is unique to our industry. I mean, Disney and SeaWorld and Volcano Bay. I mean, Universal. I mean, they've never been closed like this ever. Okay, but I own a small water park myself where we do prototype water rides, and we normally do about 100,000 visits, and we were able to open this summer, but we opened to about 40%. We actually did about 40% of our revenue, which was really lucky. Small park, but same
Mm-hmm.
idea, like it's like, oh my God. It makes total sense probably for Universal not to have Volcano Bay open. But it's one of those things. It's a calamity for the staff. It's a calamity, but you know what? I mean, everybody's in it the same way, but we will get through it. Like, I mean, they are going to open on March 1st, and hopefully the COVID scare has gone into another level, so that when we
Yeah.
come back together, it can be really strong, because there's no doubt all of our guests everywhere around the world love our theme parks and water parks. And you know, I just have to relay that. In a tough time, I have to relay that enthusiasm because
Yeah.
I'm one of the lucky ones who have seen it and built things all over the world, and it's the same everywhere. The guests, when things are healthy, they love those experiences and they need them.
Let me ask you this, Rick. I say all the time, and Jim Shea and Keith James and I have discussed this, that our industry, the entire industry, indoor, outdoor, water, dry, museums, we all live on repeat visitation. And
100%.
repeat visitation is driven by CapEx, by innovation,
Yes.
and what for in your industry, in the water park segment, what do you think have been the technological advances and the innovations that have had the biggest impact so far, and what do you think represents like the biggest, the baddest, and the best? What to keep moving in that direction?
Here's the beautiful thing. I mean, I learned that statement. Our industry is all about add an attraction. Add an attraction. So once you do your phase one of your theme park or water park, okay, always we tell our clients, and this is not unique just to ProSlide, this is all the water park vendors and theme park vendors, make sure you have enough land for a long time that you can continue to add attractions, and you know, which obviously adds entertainment value. And by the way, you grow your business by growing your business. You add capacity, and when you add great attractions, of course, it makes sense that the value of the ticket goes up, the entertainment value goes up, so you can grow the ticket price and be fair, but you also grow your volume. So, I mean, this is like, I mean, we learn everything in the water park industry from the theme park. And I told you that the other day. I mean, the theme park, we are so lucky to be in the draft of the theme park industry, really.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I'm a water skier too, right? And you know, you get pulled along. And it is our responsibility. Like water parks have, I mean, they're really serious these days. I mean, you've seen them, the expenditure, the CapEx. And so here's the beautiful thing. Started off, you know, all in our lifetime. I mean, in our, you know, our adult lifetime, body slides, okay, speed slides, body slides, okay, 2-person tubing rides, 6-passenger Mammoth River, you know, family raft rides. Okay, and I remember, like, because you know, the one thing you got to be on the supply side, you have to be a great listener. I'm talking too much, but you have to.
You're doing fine.
You have to be a great listener. So a lot of the innovations that I have been responsible for have come from our clients. And as you would know, once we got into 6-passenger or 4 to 6-passenger raft rides, okay, we need more of those, because that's when water parks really took off. And that's when the indoor staycation hotels started to take off. When we did Tornado, a 60-foot diameter tornado reducing radius funnel on the side of a hotel, and these were like roller coasters, okay? So we're bringing a water park, which is like they've got high entertainment value attractions. And that's why those hotels work so well, because people can go at a staycation location and they rode world-class rides like you would ride at Volcano Bay or Blizzard Beach, and you can actually do it there. That's amazing. And we've been lucky.
I'm going to stop you for 1 second because Pam's throwing some things up here. We've got some questions that are coming in, and we've only got about 25 more minutes. And I've got a few more things I want to get to, but I want to get to some of these questions. This is from Javier down in Spain. And he said, Rick, what really drives the design of water attractions? This is kind of several parts. Is it the millennials? Are they the driving force that for so many of the aspects of the industry? And what can we do to keep the younger generation interested in visiting water parks?
Okay, so very good question, of course, and it's one that we have been working on since the inception of our industry, and the whole idea about building a water park. We call it, we build water parks and we design rides for kids of all ages. Kids of all ages. In other words, right from infants, or toddlers in kiddie play areas, kids play, all the way to grandparents who participate with those kids all the way through. So we focus on young family. Javier, no doubt the millennials are important, and they always have been, like younger, adrenaline-driven demographics of teenagers. This is very, very important, and we have that. I mean, you look at, it's hard to beat we just opened 142-foot free fall speed slides at American Dream. 142, 14 stories.
Wow.
And smooth as butter on the outrun. So we do focus on that, but one thing you cannot forget is it's all the family, and you want to make sure that everybody has a place in that park that they feel really comfortable in. And I'll say it this way. Number one thing about a water park, you make sure the environment is one that the families and every demographic wants to go back, repeat, repeat, repeat. So it's all about the environment. And we make sure, and I say, leave it up to us on entertainment value, because ski racing at 80 miles an hour is thrilling, and we're trying to match that. So,
I wish my knees would still let me do that.
we can
snow
do
skiing. Maybe when I get this knee replaced. Here comes another one. This is from Jean-Philippe. I think I'm pronouncing it Jean-Philippe.
Jean-Philippe.
He's over in France, and he says, let me read this. He said, this is interesting. He said, water attractions have become a must on cruise ships.
Yes.
He says, what do you think is the next industry to enter the water space? And are there other non-water park venues? And this is a big second half. I like this question.
Yeah.
Are there other non-water park venues that are looking at incorporating water attractions? So first, the cruise.
Yep.
What do you think is the next industry to enter water park space? And are there other non-water park venues? So other things that I haven't thought about yet.
I'll finish my list that way. But the cruise ships blew me away, okay, and what it is and how far they've taken it, because cruising usually is, I'm going to lay back, I'm going to have it's usually a demographic that, we're going to have some cocktails, and, it would be a little bit of an older thing. We're going on a cruise and we're going to visit these various locations. Well, obviously the cruise line business and people involved are very smart. And so now it's the full Monty with the full demographics of family. And a cruise ship for me is like an indoor themed hotel, right? And
yep.
So and custom designing these rides, that's what all of the slide companies need to be really good custom slide designers, so that they can put more rides and attractions and water on that cruise ship. And cruise ships, between us guys, I mean, they are so critical of weight, of load on their ship, that, now we got to do it so they're, everything's really light, but we need maximum entertainment and maximum attraction diversification. So that blew me away. Now, having said that,
we just did a project with a cruise line, and they're putting a roller coaster around.
Exactly.
Sort of like what you were talking about with the slides on the ski mountain.
100%. So, that's something that's just There we go. That's another application. And now they're buying up, you know, as we know, real estate islands in the Caribbean, and now they're putting water parks. The amazing
Rick, let me stop you just for 1 second, because that's the question. Can you scroll that back, Pam? This just came in from Malaysia. Okay.
Okay. Yep.
From Sanjay. And
Yep.
I'm looking back and forth. We got monitors here. It says, just what you said. So that's timely. And we don't have a lot of time, so I want to get these in.
Yep.
Private islands have become a big business for the
Yep.
cruise industry.
Yep.
Is this a trend you see continuing? And
Yep.
how does the impact of water attractions affect that on the island? And how was this, I don't understand this part. And how was this idea performed prior to COVID-19? But I think what there is, and we are looking at doing a private island experience. How do they work? That's basically.
Okay, you know what? It's an excellent application for a water park, and you always keep in mind that, you know, in a water park the water is recycled. Okay, because people get freaked out about the quantity of water, and, you know, if they thought that they were, you know, constantly bringing up new water to feed a water ride, not true. So it's all circulated through the pool and the MPA, the mechanical system. So it's very unimpactful. In other words, it's sensitive to the environment. Water parks are sensitive to the environment, and obviously it matches. So I would just say, island situations are really good. Every situation, by the way, like I always say it, we, like, as individuals, we are very environmentally sensitive. We really are. And it's really important. Like, I always said, and you know, it's never about the money first. Okay. It's about creating destinations and creating experiences that will live on your whole life, and will make memories, and will create bonds and all that sort of stuff. So when we keep that in mind, I mean, like, to run a good company with a strong team, we need to have some margin, but it's never about the money first. It's all about building amazing projects. And that when you build amazing projects that are cost effective, that really lead the world, you're going to do a lot more. And I think that we, and Dennis, we're all part of this, where that's our responsibility to do this well, because we are the ones that bring families together, and we put some of the tough times of your lives, we're able to have this experience, and then we can get back to work after we leave the park.
Here comes one more in from Asia, over actually in China, from Shenzhou, I believe it. Well, that's his name.
Okay.
He's in Guangzhou, and it says, so we got people up all night all around the world, Rick.
Holy cow, man.
To make it interesting. It says, there have been great growth in the recent years of the indoor, as you've talked about. He says, do you think that trend is going to continue? We're not seeing quite as much in Asia. And how can operators continually expand, this is a good question, their indoor offerings when sometimes we're limited by the envelope that we build in?
Correct. Now, even indoor is not unlike outdoor, okay? And nobody would have expected. I mean, I'm the lucky guy that's lived and watching this growth, and I'm not the only one. Everybody in the water park industry. I mean, outdoor just blew up. Indoors blowing up. Bottom line is when you build indoor, do the same as the outdoor. Buy the extra land. Make sure you've got that accommodation. You look at a place like Europa Park, okay, Rulantica. I mean, if anybody knows about theme parks, it's the Mocs. These guys, I mean, they're just unbelievable.
Incidentally, Roland is going to be one of my next guests coming on.
That's terrific. Yeah. Roland will do that. You want to look ahead, you look at Roland Mock and the Mock family and Chip Cleary and all the people that support that great company. But, you know, they think ahead. And by the way, all of us are thinking that way, because this this theme park and the water park industry, I think we've exceeded what other people expected, because I just want to finish that list. We're doing water parks for themed vacation holiday home builders, Lalandia in Denmark. I mean, they're on their third project with 700 holiday homes. So now they're in the real estate business with a massive indoor water park facility. That's happening. You go to China, we are very, very busy in China with the likes of, OCT, Overseas Chinese Town, with Evergrande, with Fosun Group. They're building cities. I mean, they're building, some of these guys are building villages.
Yeah, they're developers, they're real estate.
Yeah,
companies,
they're
yeah.
real estate. And the importance of a water park to them is solid gold and theme parks. And so when you see this, and does it make you want to step up and go to the next levels? Of course it does. Because we live fully on the wave of gratitude already. So can't wait to get back for the next innovation, and honestly, that's the way it goes.
All right, the questions are really coming in, and what we're going to do to you, we're probably not going to have enough time to answer them. We'll send those to you after our podcast, and then what we'd like for you to do is answer those, send them back to ITPS, and then we'll put them in our daily news. Here's the next one. This is a good one from Larry. He said, what are your feelings, Rick, on the growing use and consideration, this couple of points, consideration of camera surveillance above and below water as a part of protection of guests, COVID protection, risk reduction, potential reduction of labor force, and possibly lifeguards?
Yep. I think the use of cameras are an excellent next level. In fact, cameras are used regularly now. It's hard for me to speak about how it relates to COVID with the detection of COVID. But having said that, cameras are very, very helpful. There's the number one thing, and this is not new, but I'm just stating it to this question. Safety is everything. Safety is everything. I mean, everybody loves everything that these parks stand for and the participatory elements. And it's 100%, we are responsible for the safety, and that's number one. So cameras only, we need to detect as soon as possible. If there is an incident, if something happened, how did that happen? Because nobody wants to make sure that it's safer than any of us. We're all in it together.
It's like we live in a world today of police have body cams on them.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Those are running just so they can record and everybody can understand what happened.
In the name of safety, cameras are extremely, extremely important.
His question is, are you seeing that evolve now? Is that getting more technologically we see these telephone commercials where the guy's underwater in the swimming pool or in the diving down in the Caribbean, and you see a fish this close to you, and it looks like you and I looking at one another.
The CCTV cameras are honestly, like a lot of the most recent water parks that are being built have them in. They're built in, and like along the ride attractions, around the pool, because it's really important to know. It's really important to know. And everybody describes the best that they can what happened to them. But in fact, we need to know what happened to them too, because we know.
I'm gonna stop you there. Good answer. I'm gonna go back down to Brad. Brad, not sure where he is, doesn't have location, but it says, Rick, what efforts are being made by the industry trade groups, WWA, to lobby governmental and regulatory agencies for the safe reopening of water parks? We've got to get open.
Yeah, I mean, there's no, not being on that committee right now, hard for me to know exactly, but there's no doubt that I know there's been a lot of communication about that. I mean, when you think back, anybody that didn't open this summer, it was funny, even up in Canada, Quebec, you could open, Ontario, you couldn't open. you know?
Yeah.
I mean, and that goes
Florida,
straight,
you could open. California, you couldn't open.
couldn't open. I mean, you know, it's tragic, you know? And I did see something probably on your website yesterday, but the idea that, you know what, I mean, we really need to get together. There's nobody, I mean, when I grew up in the industry over the last 40 years, Disney, Universal, I mean, you name all the big names, and those guys care. I mean, they do care. So,
Absolutely.
I mean, you know, I know that they tend to build the safest environments they possibly can. So not to allow them to open or collaborate is quite shocking.
We've got really a lot more questions. So we'll
Yep.
scroll back up if you would, planned Darpan. We have one from Darpan in India.
Wow.
And he said, what do you see is the future of water parks in India? And I will add on to his question. It's one of the largest emerging societies, middle classes in the world, and we're still in the upward trend. What do you see for water parks in India?
I mean, you know, having grown up over the years, and there's different levels. Of course, on the supply side of any industry, there are different levels of expenditure for product development, et cetera. We think that India is going to be an amazing market over the next 2 decades. You know, it's in an earlier stage. Like, for example, China has had water parks and more established water parks longer. And what you see is you see a curve, honestly, going on as people adapt and they go, these theme parks are amazing. These water parks, they are amazing at the volume and the return on investment. And what we find is if we go in too early, usually like we end up competing with a lot of, I'm just going to say, lower cost shops. They don't really have what we have, and it's hard for us to compete in a way. That doesn't mean it's not important. India, we have gone to some trade shows, and we will continue to go to trade shows. Once we get a significant installation of a water park at the level we're talking about the thing will go viral. It will go viral. I guarantee it.
Well, you know, the other thing, Rick, is I'm reading a couple of things now, and the next explosion, population explosion, it's actually already begun, is Africa.
Yes.
It is Africa. And as you know, the IAPA has brought Africa into the
into IAPA.
That's right. And so we're already looking at that. You know, I've been in it too long now, but I've seen the pendulum go back and forth, and now it's going down into Africa. So what applies to China, India, now will apply to Africa. It's going to be a few years, but it's going to happen. I got another.
100%.
I'm going to give you another question here. Scroll up if you would, Pam. Sarah had one there, I saw. She said, Rick, do you foresee a permanent implementation, this is interesting, of technologies like virtual queuing to allow for physical distancing in water parks? What are your thoughts on how this can work in water?
Okay, being immersed in water, you know, I know that like Wild Wadi over in, you know, obviously in Dubai, you know, has a lot of queuing in water. And it's an interesting concept, but in fact, never really taken off, if you, just in terms of the true capacity, but it could have been the implication of the attractions in connection with that queuing. You know, that's what I would say that without, I don't want to poo-poo anything because everything's open. Having said that, this virtual queuing and social distancing, what we do hope is for sure water parks can adapt to that because for the most part, you're outdoors, okay? And you're not indoors. Now, this is the outdoor applications I'm talking about. So I think water parks really adapt well for social distancing relative to indoor situations. And that's obvious with other applications in every industry. Indoors, So I think it's true. Now, what I do, we're all hoping though that we don't have to social distance forever, because there's one thing that we miss, and that's the close
Relationship. Yeah,
relationships,
sure. Yeah, that's right.
I
Yeah.
mean, geez, we'd go to a trade show and, like I'm a headlock guy and I'd give 100 headlocks, and, hugs and all that.
I think I've had a couple of those.
I think, I had to loosen that neck up. It was a little stiff.
Well, you know what? And we had a picture of this in either an article I wrote for Kermes or Interpark. We showed recently when the water park, when Wuhan, China reopened, they had a huge party at a water park,
Right.
and you could literally not see the water for the people in the wave pool. And one of our follow-up questions was, that can't be healthy no matter what. So, but I think that was more for publicity and drama.
I think so too. I mean, turnover rates and all that sort of stuff. I mean, Chinese market, they love water parks. I must admit,
Yeah, oh yeah.
They see the importance of that. But I'm with you. It's amazing. I've been on quite a number of Zoom calls in the last month with our Chinese clients, and very few masks on the other end in boardrooms. But by the way, it's different there than it is for us, which really, goes back to the world map. There's different places at different times of the COVID cycle. And the good news is you can get through it. And I don't want to be political, but masks and social distancing.
Got to do it. We got to do it. I don't care what your politics are, but medically, scientifically, we're told.
Yeah.
I got another one for you. Daryl said, good point on the environmental sensitivity.
Yeah.
He said that was a great point. However, related to environmental impacts, what are we seeing in your industry that are energy efficient innovations evolving from the feature side of the water park, because pumps and motors are expensive to operate?
Yes. Well, you know what? I mean, there's no doubt that efficiencies of energy are critically important, and they are driven also economically. So it makes sense to do this. Now, it's almost like any earlier phases of any industry that do have a lot of electrical requirements. For example, we do business with ski areas. Well, there are some ski areas now, and by the way, they're driven by pumps with, snowmaking, compressors, chairlifts, the whole bit. And there are some now that are absolutely going green and working on, solar, working on wind, working on efficiencies. And there are, for example, I know Six Flags, they're probably not alone, but they're doing, down in Great Adventure in New Jersey, they're having their own power plant literally by solar that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
So, these things tend to take a little time to get started, but then you have supply side that gets smarter about the availability of those products. And all of us would be super happy to be not reliant on, regular hydro type of,
and I think as technology evolves, that will come into the water parks, just like linear induction systems came into
linear induction motors,
roller coasters 100%. And automobiles and Teslas and everything. Yeah, Rick, we're at time. I'm gonna stop there.
Keep going, Dennis.
I know. Well, we've got a lot of questions up here on the board, believe me. But I want to thank you very much for agreeing to come on. It was everything I hoped it would be, and obviously by the number of questions, we're over 190 some people now who are watching and listening. Right. And we'll get more, because after Jim and Keith were on, people who were tied up in meetings, like people who are at the WWA right now, they can go in and pick it up online, and they listen to it while they're exercising and walking and jogging and who knows what else. So
well, it's certainly been my pleasure, Dennis. you know, sharing the love and the gratitude for the industry, and
Yeah.
and really, you know, just supporting everybody. And we're all in this together.
Yeah, we're all in it together. And as I said at the top of the hour, it really is a Corona coaster. I
It
think
really is.
that's a
No
good name,
doubt.
but I don't think anybody's going to use my name on a new roller coaster.
Yeah,
But we are on a Corona coaster, that's for
there
sure.
you go. Yeah.
I want to again just say thank you, Rick. And I always like to end up saying two things. And one is that we're not here for a long time, we're here for a good time. If we can't have fun, how can we sell fun? And how can the people have fun? And also, we work in a wonderful industry. I've been in it now almost 60 years, believe it or not. And we don't put smoke in the skies. We don't pollute the streams. What do? It's what you said a while ago. We put smiles on people's faces, and we make memories that last really a lifetime and generations. So I want to thank you again, Rick. I want to thank our viewers and our listeners. Just want to leave you with one other thing. We've got about 8 people coming up. I'm only going to read the next 3. We've got Rene Aziz from Grupo Divertido in Mexico.
Great.
Rene is going to come on. He'll be on October 21st. He's our next guest. He's going to talk about the Mexican and the Latin industry and the impact that it's had. And if, for those of you who've watched the news today, you've just seen that Cancun's been hit again with another horrible hurricane, and it's affected attractions down there. So Rene's going to give us a great overview of the industry, the economy, the politics, and what's happening and what he sees happening there. Then we're going to be followed by Jane Cooper, who's President and COO of the Herschend Entertainment Park. She's going to be with us on November 4th, and she's going to talk about several different topics, keeping young talent, innovating, and engaging people. Jane's been very active, chairman of IAPA, as you know, and head of the foundation that we had. And then we're followed on November 18th. I'm really excited that, as I mentioned, Roland Mack is going to join me. And, you know, there's a great both manufacturing and operating side, and a great, as you said, great family that's been doing this for centuries almost.
A wealth of information.
And nobody knows the European market better than Roland, and he's going to talk to us about Europe and kind of go deeper into subjects there. So thank you, Rick. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate you listening in. If you have any follow-up questions, please send them in. We'll see that Rick gets those. We'll see that they're answered in our ITPS Daily News. And for those of you who may not have the ITPS Daily News, you can register for that at www.interthemepark.com, and Sean Haas will see, and his team will see that you get that. And it's really the greatest compilation of information in the industry, totally current. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Rick. And we're going to say goodbye.
Thanks, Dennis. Thanks, everybody.
Okay.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.